Version 3.2 came out recently, and while I was looking through the patch notes, the first thing that caught my eye was the change to Autobomb. Now, a lot of people know, especially longtime viewers of this, know that I'm a big fan of the Autobomb. One of the biggest problems with it, however, is that it costs a lot to use one. It originally cost 70% ink to throw one. Now, with the changes they made in 3.2, it actually only costs 55% of your tank to throw one Autobomb. They did sort of balance it by reducing the time at which it follows people, but that number is pretty much irrelevant and has no impact on anything in reality. So when I saw that it was reduced to 55%, I was immediately hyped. I was extremely ecstatic to see that they finally adjusted something that needed to be adjusted a while ago. Now, what this does is it opens the door for Sub-Saver to be useful on Autobombs, and more importantly, it allows the use of a double Autobomb build. If you saw my video on Octobrush gear, you might have heard me say something in there about double Autobomb and how much it costs and how it's not feasible as a result of the cost. Well, in 3.1, it costs 2 mains and 9 subs to be able to throw 2 Autobombs. And even then, you wouldn't even have enough ink in your tank to get one full Octobrush flick off afterwards. Well, with 3.2, after testing and looking at numbers, you actually only need either a main and a sub or 4 subs of Sub-Saver to be able to throw 2 Autobombs. And that makes it to where having a pure or 1 main and 3 subs of Sub-Saver allows you to throw 2 Autobombs and get 2 full Octobrush flicks afterwards. This is actually pretty significant and is a pretty good change. One quick thing to note with this as well is one change that was also brought with 3.2 is now, by default, the Splattershot Jr. and the Custom Splattershot Jr. now actually have a base 110% ink. Now, that actually means that by default, with no Sub-Saver, a Custom Splattershot Jr. can throw 2 Autobombs. So why is this a big deal, to be able to throw 2 bombs? Well, it's because a lot of lethal bombs in this game apply a lot of pressure, and a lot of people will move based on where bombs are, and Autobombs actually show people where the enemy is, and it will detect them and follow them. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the detect time has been lowered, but the higher you play in the game, there's more likely that people will not actually chase or run away from an Autobomb, but instead they will run at it to trigger it to explode and then run away from it. That doesn't really make too big of a deal, and it might sound like that makes it kind of worthless if people are just going to make it explode immediately, but it still reveals the location of a player, and that's what makes it very important. In cases like the Octobrush, it's very helpful for the weapon that can't really do too well on its own advancing when it has no control. This is what gives it the ability to decide whether or not a position is worthwhile and is safe for it to make a move in. With the large detect radius of the Autobomb, it can give you a good idea of if an area you're wanting to move in is occupied or not, and if the Autobomb chases somebody, you know it's not a safe place to go. And having a double Autobomb means that you can check more areas. You can have the detect radius basically doubled, where you throw one Autobomb in one area and then throw it a little bit further with the next one. This allows you to get a wider sense of where people are and if the position is safe for you to go for. This also allows weapons like the Octobrush to contest the Rainmaker shield, as lethal bombs like the Splat Bomb and Suction Bomb and Autobomb do a decent amount of damage to the shield, and having 2 of them allows you to contest the shield by yourself essentially. People that use the main weapon to pop the shield might not do as much damage to the shield as throwing 2 bombs. While the Octobrush itself used to be one of the best main weapons for popping the shield, it is unfortunately no longer that situation. So giving it 2 bombs actually does a good job at allowing it to contest that. Another use for double bomb is for pressuring backliner weapons like rapids or heavies or things like that. Weapons that are going to be sitting back and have a large time to build up their kill potential, like a heavy splatling or a charger, will be pestered away from their position when you throw Autobombs at them. This has always been the use of Autobombs, and primarily what people should be using it for is getting displacement on weapons like that. However, having to run away from 2 of them is suddenly more scary than just having to run away from one of them to trigger it or to just escape from where its detonation is. So how useful is this really? Well, it's to the point where I would suggest that just about every Autobomb weapon actually run a double Autobomb build. It's very effective, and it actually doesn't cost that much anymore. With how absurd it was to get it before, it was not something I would consider feasible and not worth using at all. But now, because it only takes roughly around a pure of Sub-Saver for it to be a more optimal number, then it makes it more manageable, and before in Splatoon 1, people used to run a pure of Sub-Saver just for burst bombs. Autobombs provide so much for just the team and your weapon individually that you might as well incorporate a pure of Sub-Saver. Also because not a lot of gear in this weapon in reality is all that useful to begin with, and weapons like the Octobrush are one of the weapons that can actually do well with just about anything on it. So that's why you could incorporate this. A lot of weapons actually do well with little to nothing. They could have, 3 mains and 9 subs, a quick super jump, and it wouldn't make a difference. So it's at a point where it's cost effective, it's easy to get to, and why not? Because not much is going to be used anyway. If you have the spots, you might as well use them. It figures as much that Nintendo would make a change like this not long after I make a video that basically says that you shouldn't stack Sub-Saver on the weapon. But yeah, I would definitely recommend using double Autobomb. It doesn't cost that much to get into, it's not a very high investment, and it helps out so much to have more than one bomb available. That, and if you couple it with your teammates that have more bombs themselves, then you stack the lethal bombs on your team, and the amount of pressure those apply is pretty substantial. So yeah, I would definitely recommend, if you're using an Autobomb weapon, to try and mess with the numbers of Sub-Saver that will help your weapon. Like I mentioned earlier, Custom Splattershot Jr. can actually get it with no Sub-Saver, but obviously you would still want to use it, as it would actually cost the entirety of your tank to throw both of them. So I would suggest messing around with it. It is definitely now no longer something I would consider to be a large gimmick. It is now a feasible option, and is a good option at that. So I want to thank everyone for watching, and I will see you all next time.